about the work that Seven Directions of Service is doing. We have some updates about our third act campaigns and actions. And so we're going to start with Rosemary, and she'll talk about what is happening with our advancing fossil-free fuel financing and democracy and voting campaigns.
Yeah, thanks. In our area, the advancing fossil-free financing is the work of trying to get the money out of, get the source of money out of the fossil fuel, fracking, gas, oil, the things that are destroying our planet. So this summer, all the summer, there were members in Wall Street that were protesting at Citibank. Many people got arrested in the process, and really were very, very visible on the news and particularly in that part of the country. So we are continuing in that area of work in terms of divesting the fossil fuel money from the pension fund. So North Carolina has a state pension fund, and that's for those of us who worked in the state system at some point. A lot of us have our money there. And it was not that long ago that I learned as a beneficiary that the money I've been putting in is actually being invested in fossil fuels. And so this part of the campaign is to work to reverse that. But the way it works here in North Carolina, the state treasurer is the person or the office that makes the decision about where the investments are going to go. So we have a fund of 2.1, we have a fund of, let me get these numbers right, $2.1 billion that are in the fossil fuels. And so the state treasurer makes those decisions and can reverse that, can decide to not invest in the fossil fuels. And so part of this campaign is connected to our democracy and voting work, which is to get somebody different in that office this time around. And the person that is running, the Democrat that's running, is Wesley Harris. And we are in the process of going through our national office to get permission to formally endorse him. One of the things we know about him is that he is against the ESG law that we have. So briefly, what that means is that right now in North Carolina, they can't make investment decisions based on the environment, social issues, or governance. So right there, we've got a problem. So that law has to get eliminated for us to really be able to use that and disinvest from fossil fuels in the way that we want to. So one of the things we do know is that Wesley Harris is against that law. So right away, that would take away a barrier, and know that he is supportive of investing in better things in our pension funds. And so what we're doing as the coordinating committee is we've identified a few candidates. We can't do many, but a few candidates around the state that could be key. And we are vetting them using a set of criteria that we developed that all have to do with the climate, what they can do, what they would do. And so we can then decide which people look like the ones we should support. Part of this process is that the central office has to review it. Since we're a 501c3, we have to be very careful about endorsing candidates. So we're in that process now, and we'll be supporting Wesley Harris. The others on the list, we're still gathering information about them, and we've sent out a survey so we can get their information about what they want to do, can do, should do in this area. So as soon as we get through that, we'll let you know and give people opportunities to support those candidates. So I'm passing to who? Oh, Karen, yes. There you go, pass it.
Yay. Howdy. So I'm part of the Democratized Energy Committee with Cheryl. And so, for those of you who have joined before, I'm always giving you lots of different actions to do. So I'm going to continue doing that. And again, one more reminder, you can still submit a comment to the Utility Commission about Duke Energy's terrible proposed carbon plan. I will put information in the chat. And you're going to hear more about this from Kasey very soon. But Kasey, I'm going to go ahead and put in the 7 Directions petition to tell FERC no Southeast Supply Energy project. And also I'll put the August 29th meeting coming up in Lexington. And then we also have, I'll continue putting this in here, a link for you to send a message to the banks to stop, to defund the Mountain Valley Pipeline. And then earlier this year, we had Jason from Blue Ridge Environmental Defense League speak to us about the Mariah Energy Center. And so today there's a new article out that I will put in the chat for you. We're still waiting. They've had their air permit hearing, and so we're still waiting to hear from that. And probably by next month's roundtable, we'll probably hear about that. And they will probably be the wrong decision, but we'll let you know. And then also, Icky Terrible Mansion has another dirty deal that he's proposing, and that's passed in a committee. And so I'm going to put information in the chat to tell your members to vote no on the Energy Permitting Reform Act. And then now I get to introduce the beautiful Kasey. Yay. Kasey Kinsella is the Associate Director of 7 Directions of Service, an Indigenous-led and Indigenous-centered environmental justice advocacy group based on Occaneechi-Saponi homelands in rural North Carolina that is dedicated to defeating the fossil fuel industry, as well as advancing the rights of nature movement and cultural transformation. Right now, I know Crystal and folks are in Hawaii with some youth learning all about the culture stuff in Hawaii, which is really cool. Entwined with Kasey's environmental justice organizing work as a white-bodied and non-native member of 7 Directions, Kasey also dedicates herself to interrogating and decomposing internalized stories and tendencies of the dominant white body supremacy culture through her clown and comedy performance art practice, which is really cool. And I was actually at Kasey's house in Haw River last year when we actually had our first round table, because Joe and I attended the awesome 7 Directions water ceremony close by, and she offered her house. So here she is. She's one of our speakers now. Yay. Welcome, Kasey.
Yay, welcome. Thank you so much, Karen. It is so amazing to be here. I did not realize that you were facilitating the first roundtable on the bus. It just feels like you kind of blessed that space in ways that I didn't quite understand, and I'm glad to know. Yeah, I have just so much respect for the Third Act folks that I know, so many people on this call. And you know, what I associate with Third Act, or the most exposure that I have is around a lot of radical interventions related to the Mountain Valley Pipeline. And that's really how I first got involved with 7 Directions of Service. So yeah, I just have a lot of gratitude to the work that y'all do. And I'm learning a lot too. And really interested to stay tuned on your work with the pension fund and other things. So I'm happy to be here. And yeah, I mean, is the best thing to do just kind of go into some, okay. Yeah, well, Karen did a great job, I think, describing the like overall picture of 7 Directions of Service as an Indigenous-led environmental justice collective. And I'm curious if people are comfortable like raising their hands if you have heard of 7 Directions of Service before. I'm just curious if people are like familiar. I know, yeah, we got a lot of people who've been directly involved. Cool. So a lot of people do know, not everybody. And I'm going to show some videos as well that I think can even do a better job than me describing some recent events and actions that we've led in a little bit. But I wanted to share some of my like background in getting involved with Seven Directions of Service. We hosted a water walk back in 2021, which was a really beautiful Indigenous-centered, prayerful advocacy walk along the proposed MVP Southgate, and that's the Mountain Valley Pipeline extension proposed to come into North Carolina along that route in Eden back in 2021. And I think what was so resonant about it, and I know that people on this call were there, but what was so resonant to me as an activist was witnessing the convergence of the spiritual, prayerful, ancestral, cultural kind of principles of Indigenous movement, and that being kind of hand in hand tied in with advocacy. So we had kind of like a contingent of Indigenous community members who were walking in prayer for the healing of the water. And we also had people, which I helped to organize, who were going door to door and giving out information about the pipeline proposal right along the route in communities where people never heard about a project that was really proposed for their own backyard, and then kind of meeting up in different locations to have prayer and fellowship along the way throughout that entire day. So that event really hooked me, and that kind of I would say sort of approach or essence of organizing for Seven Directions really is the anchor. So a style that is about solidarity and bridge building, bringing different strengths together in collaboration to build the world that we want to see, that is, you know, centering and being guided by Indigenous ancestral wisdom and the descendants of those ancestors' vision and strategy. So it's a really amazing organization to be a part of, and would love for y'all to, you know, come out to our events and learn more. And then earlier this year, we had another water walk that was addressing the myriad fossil fuel expansion proposals that we're now facing in our area that still includes MVP Southgate. Although we did learn earlier this year that the project pulled out of one county, which is actually a huge victory. Still fighting that, but like a multitude of other proposals that Karen, I know, has been updating you all about. So I'd like to take a minute now and watch the recap video from that event so y'all can really get like the flavor of it if you weren't there. And I want to shout out to Skip on this call because his aerial footage is actually in the video that we're about to watch. So really appreciate that. So yeah, I'm not sure who is managing that, but if we could take a minute and watch that video.
So who is doing that? Would you like me to?
Yeah, I don't really know. So we're
I have to
co-hosting.
find the link. I'm sorry. We didn't prep
Oh,
this.
no
Did
problem.
you?
I'm
Do
sorry.
you could share. I think you can share.
Sure.
Then if you've got it ready there.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
No problem.
Cool.
Sorry for the misunderstanding
No,
that.
that's okay.
Okay.
We're pretty informal here.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I can just pull it up really quick. Let's see. Cool. All righty. Okay, cool. And do I have,
If
I
you
can share
don't,
my screen. Awesome.
okay. Because if you don't,
Okay.
I would fix that.
Nope, we got it. All right. I am very untech savvy, but here we go.
We got it.
Okay. Can
Yeah.
everybody see
Yeah.
my window?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
cool.
Mhm.
And this is also the sevendirectionsofservice.com website, which has everything you need to know. But yeah, we'll go ahead and watch this.
Till we get it right.
Can you hear it?
Yes.
Okay, great. Great.
Hey, what side are you on? Black people, what side are you on? We on the freedom side. What side are you on, my people? What side are you on? We are the good side.
I just welcome you to this land. This is the land of the Sar people. My tribe, the Okoneechee Sakoni, we absorbed some of the Sara, but we are on Sar land, Sar town, which we're walking by, one of the sacred sites that we're protecting.
My name is Russell. I serve as Managing Director of the Power Coalition, which has been fighting alongside our powerful allies for these past 10 years against the Mountain Valley Pipeline mainline.
Our ancestors that are around us today, physically crossed on, but still very close. We asked for that help. What came out was an invitation of, I can't do this alone. And all of you responded so that she doesn't have to do this alone.
Our public officials are the problem. The world need to know what's going on. President Biden needs to stop this.
Maue, Maue, Maue ko, Ankio, Ankio, Ankio. Maue, Maue, Maue ko, Ankio, Ankio, Ankio. Yen stot no wazo, akop ke alpa, Maue, Maue.
All right. Thanks for watching that. I just feel like it, yeah, it conveys a big part of what Seven Directions does, which is really, you know, a lot around that piece of, like I said, bridge building, advocacy, and all of those convergences. So I wanted to go into a little bit on some updates around some of those projects that you saw listed out, which can be pretty daunting. And I am going to I put some notes down because there really is a lot to say, but I lost my notes doc. So let me just give me 1 second and pull that up so I make sure that I'm covering everything. All right, thanks. Let's see.
No worries. We appreciate you getting that video up so quickly. So.
Oh, no worries. Cool. So yeah, I mean, I think we listed out like all of those different projects that we're fighting, and this was back in February. So there's been many months between them, and we've gotten our kind of like wrapped our arms around the projects and their connections. We've moved closer to really understanding the big picture. There's still a lot of unknowns. But some of the work that we've started doing, which is really like, you know, the specialty of Seven Directions, is really going into communities that are impacted and having providing information about the projects and steps to oppose them. So we started out with SSEP, the Transco Southeast Supply Enhancement Project. And I think that, you know, what's really interesting about it is that project almost follows parallel the route of the Mountain Valley Pipeline Southgate extension, which is kind of mind-boggling and something that we're still trying to understand and like really demanding answers from these regulating agencies. And we can see that our questions are being raised even by like those agencies and in particular the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, which is probably something you've heard about. They're unfortunately also referred to as the Federal Energy Rubber Stamp Commission because they tend to kind of approve whatever crosses their desk. Nonetheless, I would say the next kind of step in the process with this Transco SSEP, which is, if you're not familiar, we have a website, nossep.org, that has a lot of information if you want to learn more. I heard a lot of people on this call who are based in Greensboro, and there are parts of Guilford County that are impacted. So we have a map of the project on that like separate landing page. and encourage y'all to go and yeah, check it out if you haven't already. But Transco will apply for their first permit. It's the certificate of public need and necessity with FERC this September. And so that will kind of open up an opportunity for public participation, which is one of the big things that Seven Directions and our coalition will be working on, is providing the talking points, the trainings to support community members, both those who are impacted and those who don't want to see another fossil fuel piece of infrastructure that this size or any size built to participate and make our voices heard. Another opportunity to learn about SSEP, if you're interested, there is a community meeting. I think Karen already shared the link, but there's a Zoom, there's a Zoom link to join, basically just a deep dive, 2-hour meeting about the details of that project that I'm not going to go into. But if you are interested, definitely check out the website and attend a meeting, and keep an eye out for opportunities to participate in the FERC process. And that petition that Karen shared as well is something that we will submit to FERC around this public comment period that's coming up in September. The other project that we're focusing on now, another pipeline, is a total different beast. It's called the Dominion T15 pipeline, which differently than Southgate and SSEP is an intrastate pipeline. It's a 45-mile pipeline proposed by Dominion that would be built within the state border of North Carolina, which is kind of a new, unfortunate, tactic by the fossil fuel industry that we're seeing, because our opposition nationally has been effective. We're seeing the industry kind of break apart projects and make them smaller and hook into each other. And that's what we see in order to avoid more regulation or more kind of steps in the process. So with this pipeline, because it's intrastate, it doesn't go through FERC. And unfortunately, it's going to be a lot harder to defeat because of also different laws in North Carolina. Like last year, there was a law, HB 600, that y'all are probably familiar with, that basically really weakened the water quality permit process in North Carolina to favor the fossil fuel industry. So that's another obstacle that as activists we are having to kind of strategize around. So yeah, this T15 is a 45-mile pipeline that's essentially proposed to transport gas from SSEP or Southgate or both, it's kind of unclear, to the new proposed gas plant by Duke at Hyco Lake. I think what's really alarming about this project as well is that it includes a brand new gas compressor station in Rockingham County in Pelham, North Carolina. So yeah, gas compressor stations are one of the most harmful fossil fuel infrastructure that exists. So there's we know that there will be some public participation opportunities around permits for this project, and we're still getting the lay of the land, and those opportunities and invitations will definitely, y'all will be hearing about it through Karen, and definitely would love your voices to be heard and when those opportunities come up. And I would say in the meantime, we're also encouraging impacted folks and others who oppose these projects to write LTEs, letters to the editor, in local papers, and seeing some already kind of coming up and coming out, because there is the media is really an opportunity to counter misinformation and disinformation, to get on the radar of new audiences and local elected officials who are, checking the local papers. So that's something that we are supporting folks to do. around these projects. And we have a LTE training actually coming up on September 4th. And I can drop that sign up in the chat right now, which I can't believe I'm even doing two things at once, but I am. So there it is.
Great. We'll put that in our newsletter.
Yeah, please do. Please do. It will be a really great training between North Carolina League of Conservation Voters and then Appalachian Voices, who are real experts on the value of LTs and how to create like a real knockout piece. So it's a great skill no matter what. And yeah, I would say again, just in terms of like what is the role of Seven Directions in along these on these front lines, it's a lot of like the real nitty-gritty stuff, like having community meetings, sending out postcards, inviting folks, canvassing, which Skip, shout out to Skip again, has come out and knocked doors with us, doing a lot of like one-on-one support, building community, and ensuring that people don't feel alone and taken advantage of. We know that especially landowners who are impacted, there's a lot of intimidation by the pipeline companies and agents, and we are there to make sure people don't feel alone, that they have resources and support. And so it can be incredibly frustrating. I think Karen could we could really go on about the disappointment and the frustration of like having to deal with these really broken regulatory agencies that are just, continually, it feels like dismissing. But we have to participate in what is available. And we know that, when we bring our different kind of like forces together, along with like legal, with our grass tops, comrades who are also, supporting, getting information to members of Congress and et cetera, we can actually really delay these projects, have them, cost more money. And like the longer a pipeline is delayed, the closer it is to death. So that's the most that we can hope for when it comes.
Kasey,
Yeah.
one more minute, okay? Let's
Okay,
finish.
awesome. Yeah, and just like, y'all may have heard that Transco's Northeast Supply Enhancement Project, which is kind of like the northern cousin to the Southeast Supply Enhancement Project, earlier this year in May, that was actually canceled. And you could see that in like New Jersey, New York, governors were denying permits. All the, mayors and different municipal officials, nearly 20, passed resolutions opposing it, and so many citizens and organizations participated in, like I was just saying, like delaying it, and all together helped to get the project canceled. So it totally happens. And I know that people here on this call have been a part of victories like that. So that is really the update on the expansions, and that's my time. So thank you for listening. There is more to say because Seven Directions of Service is also trying to pass laws, rights of nature laws, that are about imagining and living into a future where it's not about the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, but these decisions are being based on laws that recognize rivers and mountains and forests as having the right to exist, flourish, be free from pollution, to be able to regenerate. And those laws are really taking root and spreading all over the world right now. We just are a little behind in the United States. And this is, of course, like an ancestral indigenous way of relating to the earth. So we're working on really kind of like transferring that into a Western legal framework all here in North Carolina. So you can learn more about that on our website. And I hope you come and join us at Seven Directions. So thanks for listening.
Okay, we really appreciate you being here, and we're very grateful. And I'm wondering if anybody would like to ask Kasey a question. just either raise your hand or on the, you know, raise that hand. But I think I see Rosemary's.
Thank you, Kasey. That's really, really helpful. Do you know if there are any actions or meetings planned for Guilford County at this point?
At this point, there is not, only because we have the most work to do, like outside of Guilford. Like we have the wonderful Pricey Harrison there. So that's kind of our thinking behind that. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Okay. What other questions would you like to ask Kasey? Or if you've have anything you'd like to say about what Kasey spoken about.
I just wanted to,
Marcia.
I'm glad you brought up the rights of nature there at the end, because I was wondering, because that's how I first heard about 7 directions of service. That's in conjunction with that. So it sounds like there's so many other things. Are you able to work on that? I guess is, so is that's at the federal level? Is that what that is?
The rights of nature work.
Yeah.
It's a lot at this point. It's a lot. I mean, there are 2 laws that actually Pricey Harrison introduced, the rights for the Dan River and the rights for the Haw River, that were introduced in the General Assembly. We obviously have a long way to go before laws of that nature would ever be passed in North Carolina. But we are, we recently had a tribunal that was really powerful. Karen and Joe attended, that put the Mountain Valley Pipeline on trial through a rights of nature framework. So there were a panel of all Indigenous judges, and it was the first time that's happened in history, a rights of nature tribunal that was all Indigenous led. And we were able to hear from witnesses and experts impacted by the Mountain Valley Pipeline in like a really incredible, moving, synthesized way about how the rights of the rivers and other mussels and then human communities as well have been violated by that project. And of course, the judges found Mountain Valley Pipeline guilty. And that was an opportunity to bring testimony together to bear witness, because a lot of the community members are just being so unheard, and it's devastating. And so there were hundreds of people who really could witness that grief, and then also to, kind of like I was saying, live into this reality that we hope to be, that we are working towards and building, that we know is not really, it's not the current legal landscape, but we're saying we're going to create this space anyway, and live into that as though it is real, as we work towards it. And so a lot of what we're doing is educational. We had really interesting press and media attend, like one of the North Carolina legislative kind of legislative reporters actually came and attended the tribunal. And it's mainly like legislative aides that read what they put out. And he was there covering the tribunal and sharing that in that platform. So it's a lot of like planting seeds in order to sort of like foster the cultural shift that's needed for those laws to be passed. It's going to be a long process, but what's really exciting is the tribunal against MVP has been elevated to the international level. So in September, a similar kind of pool of testimony will be heard during Climate Week on September 22nd, and there's a virtual attendance option for people who are interested in checking that out. That's going to cover a couple different projects, including what we did around the MVP at that level, which again is just more visibility, more kind of media education. The more people see that it's a possibility, the more that it actually becomes possible. So
so I'm just getting back. So, like Ecuador, I'm sure other countries have rights of nature, like Ecuador, right? But so the pool of testimony, is that in the US? I guess, are there other places in the US that are doing this, or That's why I asked if it's a federal law or like the states can actually pass a rights of nature law. Is that right?
Yeah, like so I mean you see it like the Ponca Nation in Oklahoma passed a rights of nature law. There's a case in Seattle, the Saskatchewan tribe successfully used a rights of nature law in their tribal constitution to basically mandate more protections from that city for fish migration. So it is being used, not the federal level is going to be the hardest one to, I think, approach, but it's happening in the US at the tribal level, at the municipal level with resolutions and ordinances. I believe the state of Rhode Island passed a rights for the ocean. And they all kind of take different, they all kind of work a little differently, but it's definitely happening in the US as well.
I think John has his hand raised.
I do.
I just saw it. Hey, John.
Hey, just a quick question. So my understanding is a lot of the justification for the pipelines and the related power plants is increased electricity demand for server farms, whether it's Bitcoin related or whatever, e-commerce, what have you. So just curious if you had any thoughts about that. It seems like, trying to get at the demand as a way to really focus on the utility, the pipelines might be an interesting way to go.
Yeah, thanks for naming that, John. And that is something that we're like really chewing on because it is, like Microsoft, like these big tech companies that are, like you said, like a major driver. And we are definitely giving attention to how to strategize around that and pressure them. So stay tuned. And I appreciate you naming that.
And Nicole has a question in the chat, Cheryl.
Oh, okay. Let's see. It's not showing up on my
I've got it. California seems like a good place to move this. Is there work going on there?
screen.
I think she's
Yeah,
talking about
thanks,
rights of nature,
Nicole.
right?
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Nicole. Are you talking about rights of nature?
Yeah, we actually we work really we co-hosted the tribunal, the YESA tribunal against MVP with a California-based rights of nature group that's also Indigenous led called Movement Rights. And yeah, I'll put that in the chat. But they are definitely a great resource, and I don't know like specifically what laws are being kind of pushed in California, but going and looking into rights of movement rights, I think you would resonate, and they're based there.
Okay. So we have some time left. Any other questions or comments, or if you'd like to tell us what you'd like to see us work with in the next several months, or anything that you have on your mind.
Cheryl, I think Charlotte has her hand up.
Okay,
I do.
I'm just not seeing these hands coming up. I don't understand why. Okay, Charlotte.
Well, it was a question, and it's for Kasey, but also for others. You've mentioned Pricey Harrison, and she has a long, strong record of supporting conservation, land protection, just lots and lots of important work in North Carolina for the last, 30 years. And I was wondering if there are other people up for election this year. I realize we don't do formal endorsements because we're 501c3, but if there are others who have made a difference or need a touch or a communication, or are there others out there who would respond, or can you think of any other leaders who are, outside the metropolitan areas and Research Triangle that we should be supporting, basically?
All right. I am personally looking into that now, but I don't have any answers yet.
Kasey, do you have anybody that you know?
Yeah.
I do not. This is not, I will be looking out for the third act guide to candidates. No, but if I do hear, it's, we're also C3 and have to be careful.
Right.
But, if I hear of people, we'll let you know, but it's not really where we can put, capacity.
There was mention of League of Conservation Voters, and
Mhm.
I used to subscribe and contribute, and that somehow lapsed, or I haven't read one of their report cards lately, and I don't know how far down into the state house if they even talk about people at the state level and their votes.
They do, Charlotte, they do. I just don't know that. I don't know that. I don't know. I don't know where that link to that scorecard is, but I'll be able to find it and maybe include it in the newsletter for y'all.
Thank you.
But as I said in the chat, there's no one as great as Pricey, and she's
Oh,
been
yeah.
there for many years.
The best.
So yeah. And it's sad that we can't think of somebody else.
I know.
I
I think that's something we need to do in 2 years.
well, for the Charlotte folks, John Autry is really great, and John worked a lot with Pricey. Although he voted the wrong way on House Bill 751. And Greer Martin, who used to be our representative, was really good, and he would always vote with Pricey too. But she was the one that was, that's her main thing, like it is for me and a lot of you,
Mhm.
We got
didn't-
something in email from Third Act Central that says one priority for us is the Davis NC1 House seat, which
Yep.
I'm not sure where that is.
That's
But-
down near Wilmington, Karen.
Okay, so he said it might be among the closest in the country and probably pivotal to whether the Democrats end up with House control. So he's a mixed bag on climate issues. So they're not endorsing him, but we're putting this word out to you guys. He helped save the IRA, which came down to every vote. And he sometimes bows to the fossil fuel industry, but he's a lot better than his opponent. So if you know anyone out that way, Davis in NC1.
Yeah, and we have a candidate in Western North Carolina running, and he is seems to be we've sent him the questionnaire, but we haven't gotten it back yet. But he seems to be very interested. He's a young man and very interested in climate change, and he's starting to put it in his text and his emails.
So that's he's running for state Senate?
No, he's running for U.S. Congress.
U.S. Congress, and that's
Caleb
Rudeau.
Rudeau.
Caleb Rudeau.
And he's running against Chuck Edwards.
Which we need to replace.
Yes.
So.
Yep. So it's too bad that we have such a small list.
Well, it's occurred to me that sometimes, if you go to their website or if you get their emails and then they do polling, well, what's your number one issue? And I have many issues, but I always try to put climate up there first because I think it's really important to have those concerns show up. And maybe that's one way is just through either minor donations, or a lot of times if you get on their list for information, they will ask you what's important to you. So it's not.
Well, we just developed a very jam-packed questionnaire and we sent it out to quite a few folks that are running for office.
Yeah, there's
and where will that be published? Where will that be published?
We'll put it in a newsletter.
Yeah, it'll be in our newsletter. So but we haven't gotten any back yet. We just sent it out.
Maria has her hand up.
I just wanted to give a shout out to the coordinating committee. You guys are so dedicated and doing such a great job. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
thank you. Thank you so much. So, anything else? We've got 2 minutes. If you have any other information that you'd like to give us, make maybe an announcement if you have something that might interest all of us who are on this call. So
Sorry, do you mean me, or is this like to everybody on the call?
Everybody.
this is to everybody.
Everybody.
If
Okay,
you have
okay, great.
something else, please,
Okay.
please take this time. That would be fine.
Well, I mean, yeah, if folks are interested, I would love to end on like, for me personally, like a note around the rights of nature, because it really is, I think, a life-giving campaign to learn about and be motivated by. It's one that's very much like proactive about world building. So I hope that folks will go out and check out the 7directionsofservice.com/rights of nature. You can find it right on our homepage. And just, you can see the report from the tribunal that we held. And I'm also dropping a video. I'm sorry, I didn't have time to share it, but this is the recap video from the tribunal. If y'all want to maybe like watch that at some point, it really is inspiring, and would love to have y'all, be a part of that work moving forward too.
Can we
And we
end
put
watching
all of
the
these
video?
in our follow-up
Cool.
email. We put all of them. Everything you put in here, all these links, we will put them in.
Thank you so much.
I'm sorry.
Awesome.
Someone else was trying to speak.
Yeah, I was just thinking it would be nice to end with that video because it's so beautiful.
How long is it?
It is 3 minutes.
Okay.
Wow.
Oh,
Would you all like to go out with that?
Yeah. that'd be
go
great.
for it.
Go out.
Let's go out with that.
It's
I
nice
love
to
it.
go out with something beautiful.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I'll put it on, and
Thanks for being here. We really appreciate you.
Oh my goodness, it's so mutual. And yeah, I know I'll be seeing some of y'all soon. So here it comes. Technology. Okay.
No volume, Kasey.
Oh. No volume. That's weird. I did not do anything differently. Oh, it might just be taking a while to boot up. It's just sound. Does anybody hear anything?
Now it's coming.
Okay.
Maybe you want to.
People just aren't heard, their concerns aren't heard, a lot of the science is ignored. So I would say why the tribunal matters, because I think it's a way for people to be heard, for us to hear testimony as a judge, to set up a mechanism that hears the people.
We have rights over profits, rivers over profits, and we have to make our communities safe for our future. Mountain Valley Pipeline is a violation of the rights of nature and the rights of the rivers.
It is the first time in history that this has been an Indigenous-led tribunal, but also that it's the first time being held in North Carolina. And I wanted the people here to be proud, or to be able to connect back to our ancestors.
Traveled down here from Boston, Massachusetts to serve as a judge on the tribunal of the rights of nature for the Haw River. And it's definitely an honor to be here and serve in this way.
Rights of nature are needed because Mother Earth, she is already speaking. You know, I have people, the early settlers, when they come, the indigenous people taught them how to pay attention to nature, how to pay attention to things and learn from them and listen to them. What people need to know about rights of nature is if we don't stand up now, if we don't stand strong, if we don't talk out about what humanity is doing to our natural resources, Mother Earth and our waters, eventually we're not going to have any.
They're all different types of tools, right? But really, at the end of the day, we're trying to heal the land. We're trying to heal ourselves, and we're also trying to take down structures that are colonial in nature, that do damage, do harm, and to figure out new ways to move forward. And I think the rights of nature is a vehicle that will do that.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Soon.
Thank you for coming. We hope to see you all next month on the last Tuesday of the month at 6:30.
Bye, y'all. Thanks for having me.
Thanks,
Bye.
Kasey. Thanks, Kasey.